What's up, people? Welcome to week 4. Week 4. Got PHS representing in the house right here. Go advisement. 5th period. So because of that, you get to enjoy this lecture with me and my mask, and it kind of pushing down on my gobble right there. Good times. Okay, so this week, let's see. Let me go share my screen here. Okay, so this week we're going to begin the official essay 1. You're going to start working on essay 1, and you are going to complete the rough draft, and that's going to be your goal. Okay. The materials I'm going to use in this lecture can be found in the following places, which I'm about to show you. Okay. Go to lessons, and I've added a folder. We had lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and now magically essay 1 folder has appeared. What? Crazy. Okay, so we have essay 1 assignment, okay, which I'm gonna go over today. We have the rough draft link, which is where you're gonna post your rough draft. Okay, I'm gonna go over all that. When we finish with the essay and you're ready to submit it, you're gonna submit it through here. This is the turnitin.com submission link. And then today's PowerPoint that I'm gonna go over is located right here. There's it in the PowerPoint, and then there is also it as a PDF, which in the past I've had problems saving as a PDF because my program doesn't want to work sometimes, but it's working fine today. So I was able to save it as a PDF, so you can download that as well, which is interesting. PDFs contain more memory than PowerPoints. I did not think so. I didn't think that would be. Anyways, so that's that. Now, but I'm going to be, all this stuff is all in the PowerPoint. So I'm going to be sharing that in a moment. One thing I do want to point out to you is about our schedule. There's a slight change. Okay. This on the schedule and assignment sheet that you picked up, that you downloaded. Okay. These items right here were originally listed for next week's lecture. Okay. And this begin poetry unit stuff was listed in next week's lecture. And then here for week 6, it was going to be to be determined. And I've decided to change that around. Next week, I'm doing a live edit of a paper. Okay. I'm going to take someone's rough draft, and I am going to change their name so no one sees that. And I'm going to do a live edit, a lecture edit of the paper, and go over some tips on editing your paper and getting your final draft ready. Okay. So we're not actually going to begin the poetry unit until week 6. Week 6. I have changed that. Just FYI, it doesn't really change anything that's due for you at all. Everything's still the same. But there are, just in case you're following the schedule sheet, you would see that it's a little bit different. Okay. All right. Now let's go over this week, paper 1, PowerPoint. Okay. Make sure that we're sharing the right thing here. Great. All right. So this PowerPoint is similar to the one that I posted week 1. And I'm going to use some of the stuff from it to go over the essay. All right. So if you haven't figured it out, most of the things that we've been reading has been from the female perspective, with the exception of the sea change. But you've read 4 stories now: the Story of an Hour, The Adulterous Woman, Hills Like White Elephants, which the main character is a female, Jig, and the Sea Change, which I know Sea Change, Phil is a male. Okay, but Still, mostly is from a female perspective. So here you are going to, for your essay 1, you're going to pick one of the following prompts to write about, one of the following tasks to write a paper about, okay? You are going to, you can do this one. So we have a feminist reading of The Story of an Hour by applying 3 quotes of Simone de Beauvoir to the story and discussing how they relate to the main character. So you would have an introduction, and then your 3 body paragraphs would be, each body paragraph would be about a quote from Simone, and then analyzing how that quote relates to the story. And you did a similar activity already. You've done a similar assignment as this in the previous weeks, and so this is just continuing that. You could even use the one that you did before, the one quote that you used to apply to the story. So now you're doing 3 quotes, and then you have a conclusion. Same thing, but with the adulterous woman. If you don't want to do The Story of an Hour, but you want to do it with the adulterous woman, cool, do it. Okay. A feminist reading of The Adulterous Woman by applying 3 quotes of Simone de Beauvoir to the story and discussing how they relate to the main character. Same thing for it. Feels like white elephants here. Apply 3 quotes of Simone's to the story and discuss how they relate to the main character. Okay. If you want to combine, I just thought about this one. If you want to do a feminist reading of those 3 stories, how, and talk about how they all 3 relate to Simone, and you want to pull a quote out to relate to The Story of an Hour, you want to pull a quote out to relate to The Adulterous Woman, and you want to pull a quote out to relate to Hills Like White Elephants. You can do that too also. Number 4, an existentialist reading of 3 of the stories we have read in this unit: The Story of an Hour, The Adulterous Woman, Hills Like White Elephants, and or The Sea Change. They're all about identity. I mean, all of them are about finding themselves. The Story of an Hour, finding freedom. The Adulterous Woman, she's finding herself within her marriage. I mean, that's one of the major differences between The Story of an Hour and The Adulterous Woman. The Story of an Hour is like, it gives this bleak sort of perspective that a woman cannot be free and cannot be really herself if she's in a marriage. She'll always be like the waiter, faking it, and which is what leads to the character's death. The only freedom she can get is through death. The adulterous woman is saying, no, you can go from being, the waiter, the fake person in your marriage, but then you can refine your inner freedom and your inner self, and you can still exist without having to die. Okay. So the adulterous woman is a little bit more optimistic in terms of finding yourself. Hills Like White Elephants is about Jig deciding to live for herself, to not tie herself up with this man, to leave him. And so it's about her finding herself as this individual. And The Sea Change is, of course, about Phil. Phil's coming out. Phil accepting his homosexuality, not trying to play into this requirement for the straight male. So all 4 of them deal with existentialism, really getting an idea of who you are as a person, shedding that waiter mask, and living for yourself. So you can pick 3 of those to write about, which leads us to another option. You could apply the waiter metaphor to 3 stories and discuss how 3 characters were trying to pretend to be something that they weren't, and finally they broke out of those roles. That'd be interesting too. Compare and contrast reading of The Story of an Hour and The Adulterous Woman. I mean, they all contain a lot of similarities. They're both married. They both experience a petite la mort. Yep. They both have existential crises, but they have very different endings. So you could write about that as well. Or you think all 5 of these kind of 6 options are awful, and you want to create your own topic that analyzes 1 story extensively or 3 stories within their own paragraphs. Okay. As long as you're writing about these stories. So, I have like 90 students. And the worst thing is to read 90 essays that are all on the same exact thesis. So, even though they're all going to be on the same stories, I would like for you I would like for there to be a variety of topics that you're writing about, a variety of different like perspectives. Okay, so you don't have to tell me your perspective, or you don't have to like run it by me about what you're going to write about. If you pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you pick one of those, cool. If you're going to create your own topic, then send me an email and say, hey buyers, this is what I'm thinking about writing about, is this okay? Then I'll say yay or nay, or adjust it. Okay, so you got to pick an option, and the stories you write about have to be about at least one of these. Okay, requirements. Regardless of your topic, your essay must adhere to the following. Must be a minimum of 3 full pages, which, to be safe, it should at least be 4 pages, even if the 4th page has 1 line on it. Okay, 3 full pages. So you either write all the way down to the very bottom of that 3rd page, or you write a little bit more so it goes over to the 4th page. You will lose points if it's 2 3/4 pages, if it's 2.5 pages, if it's 2 1/4 pages. Okay, you will lose points. Doesn't matter if down at the bottom of your Microsoft Word it says page 3. If that writing needs to be all the way down to the bottom. All right, and you need to have a works cited page. So the document you submit, if you have at least 3 full written pages, the 4th page is going to be the works cited page. The works cited page does not count as one of your 3 pages that you write. You have 3 written pages and then a works cited page, or 3.5 written pages and then a works cited page. The works cited page is all on its own. It's all by itself. Okay. And it should include the stories you used and any outside research. So you can find online copies of any of the stories and just use the website in which the story is on. Even though I gave you a copy of the website, I'm sorry, even though I gave you copies of the stories, I want you to act as if I did not give you these stories. And so you can just do a Google search for the story and find a book that the stories are in, or find them published on the internet, and use easybib.com to make a works cited page. And what I'll do is I will go back over that again on next lecture, especially if looking at some of the rough drafts and people are submitting poorly written works cited pages. So your works cited page needs to be on your rough draft that you submit online. Okay. You gotta make sure you have proper MLA formatting. You have parenthetical citations. Your paper should include quotes from the stories, quotes from Simone de Beauvoir, quotes from Sartre if you talk about the waiter. And then those quotes need to be integrated. Can't have drop quotes, which I'm about to go over in a moment. You gotta have integrated quotes. So this week you're writing your rough drafts, okay? Now, your rough draft, what you submit on by February 6th, needs to be the completed essay. A rough draft is essentially your first completed draft of your essay. A rough draft is not like a short essay. It's not a 3-paragraph essay. All right, your rough draft, yeah, think about it in your head. You can consider it to be your first draft. It is the first time that you've written it's your first version of the entire essay, okay? Because the point of the rough draft is to edit it for logic, edit it for grammar, for it to flow. You should not, when you're editing your essay, you should not be having to fill in more. You should not be having to make it longer or complete paragraphs. The editing process should be thinking about grammar, communication, all those things. Okay, so when I grade your rough drafts, I'm looking that you have 5 paragraphs. It's a complete essay. It's long. Okay, and that you'll get full credit for doing. So then February 7th through February 13th is when you're going to edit your rough draft after watching my editing lecture that I'll post next week. And once your draft is fully edited and you're like, it's not going to get any better, then you can submit it. Okay. I'll begin grading essays on February 14th, Valentine's Day. And it could take up to 2 weeks to finish them all because we're talking about 90 essays, 5 pages, or I guess 3 pages each. All right. So it's like 270 pages minimum. That's a lot to grade. Okay. All right. Hold on. All right, people, we're going to wrap this up. Hey, it's me back. Look, the kids are gone. I got my lunch right here. I got my chicken nugs. Okay. I got my my stolen Chick-fil-A sauces that the students who work there bring me. Fantastic. So here we go. Integrating quotes in a literary analysis. Okay. I posted this during week 1. Not sure if you looked through it. Okay. But in it though, it goes through how you should be writing your body paragraphs and how you should integrate quotes. Okay. There are 3 parts to a body paragraph: claim, support, analysis. Every single paragraph needs to begin with a main idea, which is your claim. In that paragraph, you need to have some quotes. And in that paragraph, you need to explain those quotes. You can't just have quotes. A lot of kids want to write a main idea and then they want to have a quote and then they don't do anything else. That's incorrect. You got to explain the quotes. That's the analysis. Okay. So your essays, okay. You can read that later. Okay. All right. So look, a couple of things when using quotes. All right. You might have find a long quote, like especially a Simone de Beauvoir quote, but you don't want to use the whole quote. You only want to use parts of it or in between. So you can delete parts of a quote by using an ellipses. Okay. When omitting words from within a single sentence, use only 3 ellipses dots. 3-point ellipses have single type spaces before and after each of 3 dots. And it's actually not even a single sentence. You can do, you can separate, from one part of a paragraph. If you have a whole quote that's a paragraph, you want to use the first part, you want to use the last part. Delete all the middle part and just add the ellipses. Okay. But it still has to read like a complete sentence. You can't have an ellipses and it feels like 2 different parts and doesn't make any sense. Okay. All right. Next, if you need to specify some ambiguous information in a quote, like especially pronouns, oftentimes when pronouns are used, you can use a bracket and replace the pronoun with the meaning behind it. So example, if the word originally said, as revealed to me by the Delphi Oracle, all right, you would replace me with Oedipus, a bracket, and you would actually delete the me. Don't include the word that you are omitting. All right, delete the word and put a bracket and put the word the what it really means in the bracket. Okay. You can also change a word to avoid grammatical issues. So, for example, the quote, "possession of self-assertion," you might need to change to something like keeps her from being, quote, possessed of self-assertion, because keeps her from being possession, that doesn't make sense. That use of word of possession, nope. So instead we change possession to possessed because we changed the word into a different grammatical form. So that way it would fit the sentence better. So when you change a word, either replacing it with a different word that makes more sense or changing the grammatical form of the word, use a bracket. Okay. Do not rely on quotations to do the work for you. You must always follow a quotation or paraphrase with commentary. Never end a paragraph with a quotation. Quotations should fit into your argument. If punctuation, pronouns, or verb tenses do not flow with your own words, paraphrase or make minor changes to the quotation, surrounding them with brackets. Okay. Here are some ways that you can integrate quotes. An introducing clause plus the quotation. So you can say something like, Gatsby is not to be regarded as a personal failure because, and then you have the quote, because, quote, Gatsby turned out all right at the end. So you got to integrate quotes. You cannot just have a quote by itself. A quote by itself is called a drop quote. Okay. You can use an assertion of your own and a colon plus the quotation. So you can say something like, Fitzgerald gives Nick a muted tribute to the hero, colon, and then you have the quotation. Okay, Gatsby turned out all right at the end. Okay, an assertion of your own with quoted material worked in. For Nick, who remarks that Gatsby, quote, turned out all right, comma, the hero deserves respect, but perhaps does not inspire great admiration. Great. All right, you got to have, you should always have a page number after the quote so we know where to find it. If you're using Simone de Beauvoir quotes, the page numbers are right after the quotes, so you will know. All right. Okay, so you should be, integrating the quotes sparingly. Most of it should be your analysis. Okay, your analysis, not just relying on the quote. So like this, you've already done this. Take a quote from Simone de Beauvoir and use the story of an hour to illustrate the point that de Beauvoir makes in her statement. Okay, so this goes through a series which I think that you should read. You should go through in the notes, which is why I posted the notes. Okay, where you look at how this quote is broken down. This is a long quote. It's broken down. It's shortened. It's divided up, and then those divisions are put into analysis and explanation. Okay, and finally, the final piece is is a paragraph written, an analytical paragraph that uses parts of a quote in it. Okay, you should read that and see that you understand it, and then try it in your writing. If you have questions about whether or not you are integrating quotes correctly, you can send me a sample of your work and I can look at it. Okay, I can look at it to give you some confirmation. So that's your goals for this week, is to decide your topic and start writing, and write a full out, final draft. That's not, you don't have to worry about editing it for grammar, but this week is really important. It's getting all your ideas out. You want to write a 3-page essay this week. Don't worry about, if it's grammatically correct right now. The point of the first task is get all the ideas out. Then you fix the grammar and all that. Okay. So the most important thing for this week is to write a 5-paragraph minimum, 3 full-page essay on a topic that deals with the 3 stories, and post it. Okay. We'll edit the grammar and stuff next week. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns or anything at all. All right. See y'all later. Have a good weekend.